Morning, Stacy.
Morning, Connie.
How you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing all right too, thanks. It's a beautiful day.
Yes, it is. Feels good outside.
Are we the only ones on right now?
Hey, Stacy and Connie. David's here.
Karen.
Morning.
Hey, Karen. Morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Connie. And there's Stacy.
Good morning.
Yeah. We got David and Karen. Karen's making flower arrangements.
Good morning.
And Andrew.
And Andrew, thanks for
Here I
joining.
am.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all.
Okay, so Andrew, it looks as though we have everybody on the call that we expected. Is that correct?
Got everybody on here. We are recording and we are live.
Okay, and I see Mike's name at the bottom of the screen, so the media is on as well. Okay, thank you. Good morning to the Finance Committee.
Morning.
Hey, I figure I know you all have been doing some work with Stacy, and we've all had a number of one-on-one conversations. But Connie, David, how would you all like to proceed with this morning?
David, I don't know about you, but I would like to ask Stacy to give us an update on the revenue that's came in the end of July.
Yep.
If we could we start there, please?
I think it's one of the most important things we need to learn, Connie, is how did we finish up last year?
Thank
It
you.
determines how we begin this year. So I think it's a great place to start.
Okay.
Absolutely. Andrew, do I have permission to share my screen?
Got it now.
All right, thank you. Okay, I will start by going over the report that we give to council each quarter that shows our major revenue categories, and then we'll talk about our overall revenue for fiscal year 2020. So I have gone through, so we'll start with payroll taxes. This is the one we've been watching carefully all along because we knew that it would be the best indicator of how our local economy is doing. So for fiscal year 2020, we had budgeted $12.5 million for payroll taxes. As of the receipts that we had received as of this morning, we had collected $12,381,865. So we were about $118,000 short of our budget on this one. So, but 99% of our budget collected. And June is still. Sorry, somebody else in echo? Sorry, okay. And June is incomplete. We still have one more transfer from the Revenue Commission. I think that may be coming today or Monday. So hopefully by Monday's council meeting, I might be able to update that number as well. Because I received the email from Tammy this morning that a transfer was coming. So overall, even though the month of April, which we knew would be our hardest hit month, was down compared to 2019. Overall, we are pretty close to what we budgeted. Now we're still down from last year, but we had budgeted our revenue conservatively in this category. So thanks to that, we will be close. Yes.
I think we were running ahead before we ran into those down months. So
Yes.
Not only do we have a slight deficit, we lost the little advantage that we thought we had in this category.
Right. So that is our payroll tax. And as you said, Mayor, you can see through June, we're down $438,000 compared to last year. So we just happened to budget lower.
And Stacy, you're correct. We've always considered this one of our best indicators of how stable the economy is. The one variable that's crept in now is throughout this pandemic, remarkably, Toyota maintained their employment and almost maintained all their hours whole. And that's such a big part of these revenues that may mask just a little bit some other ailments that might exist in the local economy in the payroll tax area.
That's correct. Net profits. This one, we've discussed a little bit. Again, going back to April, that is when traditionally our net profits returns for most of our businesses are due, with that deadline having been extended to July 15th. We did make up a little bit of that ground in June, but obviously the month of April was down 232,000 compared to last year. Through June, we've collected, like I said, some of those returns that were due July 15th, those have now been transferred to us from the Revenue Commission. We still have one more transfer that could be coming, that could have some additional, but it won't be a lot. And currently, I have in the month of June deducted approximately 1.16 million for estimated credits. As we know, some people file their tax return, they have a credit, and we show that as a negative towards our revenue at the end of the year. So with all of that accounted for, as of today, we are showing $1,597,744 collected for net profits. We had been a little more optimistic on this budget. We had budgeted $1,800,000 because we had seen increases over the last couple of years. So as of today, we're about 200,000 short of our budgeted number. However, we are 82,000 ahead of last year. And of course, the number for the credits, I won't get that final number until the Revenue Commission completes their audit for the year. I'm just basing it on last year's number right now. And this is the one that I think the one revenue category we're probably most concerned about going into this current fiscal year. Obviously, all of these returns are for 2019. And so our biggest concern will be probably this revenue category this time next year, because those returns will be for 2020 when a lot of our small and medium businesses saw the biggest impact on their financials.
Yeah, while our payroll tax revenues are immediate, these net profits tax always have a 1-year lag in what actually happened. So Stacy's right to caution us about that.
Insurance premium tax revenues, these should be pretty close to complete for the year. There may be a few straggling receipts. As of today, we have received $3,171,632. We had budgeted $3 million, so we have collected 106% of our budget, and we're ahead of last year by about 176,000. You can see that the last quarter of the year might have been down a little bit. June is down compared to last year. We do know that a lot of, especially car insurance companies, gave refunds to a lot of their customers. My mother, I've heard anecdotally from several people I know that received refunds from the car insurance companies. So I do feel that impacted that last quarter a little bit, because you can see that's 75,000 less than what we probably received last year for the month of June. So I have a feeling that probably impacted that number. But still, the revenue finished strong, and hopefully those refunds won't continue into the new fiscal year. Property taxes, this one, incomplete, it is complete. We have received $1,910,119 for fiscal year 2020. We budgeted pretty much what we had received last year. So we did have an increase over that of 130,000. So we've collected 107% of our budget. It's about 132,000 more than last year. And finally, this is not a general fund revenue. However, it is a large one that we track since it does pay for about 16% of our police salary budget. So we do keep an eye on it. And we ended the year at 1,109,704. We had budgeted 1,050,000. So we ended about 59,000 ahead of our budget for alcohol. So those are our big categories. If there's any questions about this spreadsheet, I'll take it now. If not, I'll show you a little bit more of the big picture on the budget. I'm going to share one other screen. Okay, let me know if you all see the trial balance report when it pops up.
Got it.
Okay. This report, I just wanted to show, now this does not include all of our posted revenues. All of our revenues that were received during the month of July are not reflected on this report because they have not been posted back to June just yet. So when you look at this, you can see we budgeted total revenue for fiscal year 2020 of $25,488,000 and change. As of June 30, we had received $25,156,359. So we had collected about 98.7% of our revenues for 2020. Two things will happen here. Actually, this amount received will go up a little over $1 million. We'll see that number in a minute on a different spreadsheet, but we have revenues from July that will get posted back. And then again, that net profit credit number will come off. Those two will net to about $1 million. So we should actually end 2020 at over 100% revenue collected.
Stacy, are you thinking just over 100%, like, within 1% or so?
Well, I can do a very quick. So if I add $1 million, so then divide that by the budget, it's about 102%, between 102 and 103%.
Okay. But you think
Yeah.
that's where we're going to end up even after we, see, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Even after we do the credit, you think we'll be at 102?
Yes. And like I said, I'll show you that here in just a moment. You'll see that actual number that will possibly get added back. And I just want to remind everyone, as always, especially since the public may be watching, these are unaudited numbers. As we complete our audit over the next few months, there are always tweaks and adjustments to be made. But big picture, these should be pretty close. There will be a few things that get tweaked here and there, but the exact bottom line number may change. So I just wanted you to see that for total revenue, now that we looked at our major categories. So, and I know a lot of people have asked, and of course you will see this does include an unbudgeted amount for the sale of Cardone. We received the final payment for that in the fall. Part of this will go towards revenue. There will be some adjustments to make to that because we do have a receivable on the books. So the auditors always help me make those final adjustments. But so even though this does show 98%, we did not budget that line item because it was to pay down a note receivable. So
that 959 that's in the 25,156,000, though, is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that gets us to the balanced budget. Is that right as well?
Yes, that's part of what's getting us to that 100% revenue right now. So that is
Okay.
obviously making up for losses in some other categories.
Okay.
Once the auditors help me with that final adjustment,
Yeah.
to take that note off the books, this may not be 959 exactly, but they obviously did pay in full the note receivable and the amount due to us for the roof repairs.
Okay.
Okay, so that's kind of I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
Just for further clarification, those funds currently reside in our general fund reserve.
Yes, as of June 30, 2020, that's, yes.
Okay, just one for clarity, I want everybody to understand that
Yes,
that number is included in our reserve total at this time.
and that is what I will go to next. One final screen that I will share as we update. So let me know once this pops up on your screen and I will start talking about the numbers. Okay. So starting with this, our fund balance at June 30, 2019 was 12,311,309. So that's where we started fiscal year 2020. On the books right now, fiscal year 2020 had a net income of 618,000. This is before all the entries that are made for receivables and during the audit. I just pulled that number straight from our income statement, but that's only for posted transactions. In the month of July, we have additional receivables of 958,337. Again, that will be our net profits money, our payroll tax money, our insurance premium tax money, and then I have taken off the $1.1 million credits that businesses have accumulated for net profits. So our receivable number was actually over 2 million, but once we back off the net profits money that's owed to people who have credits, our total receivables will be around 958,000. There'll be a few items that straggle in. There's some utility bills that get drafted out in June. Those will be 52,000. And then usually one of the final entries that I make during the audit process is to transfer the money from the general fund that goes to cemetery fund, business park fund, and for stormwater. So those transfers are made during the audit. So right now they're budgeted at 817,000 because those haven't been posted yet. So our unaudited preliminary fund balance at June 30, 2020 would be around 13 million, the sum of all those items. And looking forward, our next item I know will be to discuss this year's budget and any changes we plan to make to it. When we adopted the 2021 budget, we had committed 4.4 million of fund balance for that budget. With the circumstances that we knew back in May and early June when we were trying to adopt that, obviously we had incomplete numbers for 2020 at that time. The other thing that we're looking at is we do know we've received CARES Act funding up to 2.4 million that will be reimbursed. And we've received some guidance on how that can be used. Part of this money will go back to 2020 because we will be submitting expenses from March through June. And then part of this money will be received in fiscal year 2021. But ultimately, I have an estimated June 30, 2021 fund balance of about 11 million. Obviously, the CARES Act funding was a huge part of that number, not getting down quite as low. So, and this is assuming that we are able to submit enough expenses and get all of that money, which we think we will be able to, but
But it hasn't arrived yet, obviously, though.
correct. It's not arrived yet. We'll be submitting reports month by month. So we'll be reimbursed, for each month's expenses, beginning with March. So
Maybe
part of-
we can submit for reimbursement for expenses incurred up through December. So
correct.
I think Stacy's right. We probably will be able to make application large enough to receive all that funding. We're certainly going to work at doing that.
Yeah.
Guys, I know we've talked about this, but I'll say it again because it's so significant. When we were having some of our early on meetings when the pandemic kind of first hit, we were looking at a $6 million, I guess, shortfall. Is that not right, Mayor and Stacy? That in some of our early conversations, that was the number we were kind of looking at.
When in the first estimates, looking at the most conservative estimates that were suggested at that time,
Yeah.
were even tougher. And yes.
And then it's, obviously it went to 4 million or 4.4 million. And then, with the CARES money, it's huge. So I feel like we've kind of crossed the finish line for 2020 in June in better shape than certainly what we were forecasting. It's certainly a relief. I'm very concerned though, and I know we all are, that there can be a kind of a delayed reaction on the revenue and the impact to the city. So that's why we're so sensitive and wanting to see, we're very anxious to see each month's revenue expenses and how they come through, and watching, this quarter that we're in, and then, the last quarter of the calendar year, and what those look like. But anyway, this and we've had some conversations with Stacy, Mayor, that and obviously we've talked as well. So this, to me, this is excellent news. And I'm sure it is to Connie and probably the rest of us that are hearing it.
And one thing I would like to mention, as we look ahead to possibly our first budget amendment for fiscal year 2021,
Yeah.
Obviously we're going to talk about any expenses that we're able to put back into the budget. But there's probably a couple of revenues that we want to make sure we look at as well. We've already mentioned net profits. We might want to look at our net profits estimate for 2021, and we may decide that it's too optimistic.
Right.
That would obviously lower this number. However, we obviously were very conservative on our payroll revenue numbers for 2021. And, perhaps we're able to see that we can increase that a little bit. So those are the two things I think we definitely need to look at, is those revenues that we were very conservative on. We might be able to increase some of those a little bit. Net profits, we may need to decrease. And then, of course, we have the CARES Act funding coming into play. But those are just a few things that we need to think about in addition to adding expenses back.
I'm with you. We've got to be realistic, and I want to be realistic, but I'm also an optimist. And looking back, this is so much better than it could have been and what we were afraid was going to happen.
And I think for fiscal year 2021, we had, I think, decreased our payroll tax by 30%. So I'm hopeful that we can make some adjustments to that estimate.
Okay.
Based on what we saw during this last quarter.
Yeah.
David, it is a more attractive year-end picture than we thought we might see just not too long ago. So I think it's important because it gives us a better foundation to start the discussions that we have to have. And again, going back to the point that even with a very minimal budget and our conservative revenue estimates, we projected a $4.4 million hit to our carry forward balance. The CARES funding, and I think it's really important that we address this. The CARES funding is incredibly helpful because it reduces the size of that deficit for the year.
Right.
Significantly reduces the size of the deficit. Now, there's some misunderstanding about the CARES money, and there's some folks advocating that we use CARES money, for example, to give current raises. And while the CARES Act money, as it is reimbursed to us, will reduce our deficit until we fix those revenue estimates and revenue sources, we're still going to be looking at a deficit situation.
Absolutely, Mayor. You said it just right. The thing that I think is important to point out is the fact that the CARES money is just kind of it's a one-time event, most likely. We don't think that that's going to be an ongoing thing, just like the sale of Cardone was just a one-time event. And in the financial world, when either an individual or a business is trying to get financing, lenders won't give them credit for income that is, and you know this, Mayor, from your banking days, that's a one-time event. Sometimes they might show on their tax return a capital gain, for example, where they sold some stock in a particular, just this last year, and think that is part of their income to qualify. And in reality, it's not. And to me, this is very similar and somewhat parallel to that. We have a problem that we're aware of. We've been talking about for quite some time. The elephant is in the room, and it's the shortfall in revenue, and trying to deal with the police and the fire and the emergency services and all the personnel for the city. And I know that's going to be a part of our discussion as well. But I do want to emphasize and point out, Connie knows this. I'm sure all of you know this, but and I say that because of she's in the real estate business. She helps people obtain financing to buy houses, but one-time events like this, as wonderful as it is right now, it's just not ongoing, and it's not something we can depend on.
Yes, sir.
That is correct, David. I agree with you 100%.
And what we have to be careful about, Connie, is because we face difficult choices, sometimes people would like to drift toward easy solutions or what appear to be easy solutions. And our job is to make sure that they're really sustainable solutions. And
Yes,
this conversation helps us do that.
very much so. I'm very pleased to see where we've ended, so far. And I know they're unaudited numbers, but I'm very grateful, and I'm thankful for the CARES Act funding too. So that makes our fund balance not so low as we thought. So I'm grateful for that. So yeah. So now we need to start making some hard choices about what we're going to do.
Yeah. Stacy, do you have more numbers to give us that we need for context?
I don't believe so. Obviously, we've not adjusted any revenue projections for 2021 yet. I think, whatever else we discussed today about 2021, that needs to probably be our next step for a future meeting, or for me and you and Andrew to look at and bring to the finance committee very soon, would be possibly revised estimates for 2021 revenue numbers.
Okay. David and Connie, is it all right if I give you just a couple of thoughts about where we are?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. There's several essential pieces of information that the committee and the council are going to need as we make decisions about going forward. One, clearly, were our year-end numbers, and I think we're very relieved to see those in better shape than we thought they might be. So that's one good piece of information for us. The other is a lot of what happens with our revenues is going to be dependent upon the general economy that we're living in. As the economy improves, city revenues will improve. If the economy has further difficulty, our revenues will have further difficulty. So I think what we're all keen on doing is monitoring every month's financial information to determine as much as we can and project as best we can with that information. But a part of the answer to all of the things going on is going to be the condition of the general economy. There are steps we can take, but that is going to be something that I think is really important for us. We've talked about the CARES Act money and how it will benefit us, although it is not a cure-all for our ongoing budget issues. And it seems to me that if we go back to our analysis that we presented to the council in the last year about some of the structural imbalances that we have and how that puts us in a difficult position relative to our peer communities, where we just don't have as much revenue as some of our peer communities. And that's being reflected in our salaries and the current difficulties that we have. I think that the most responsible approach that we can take, and I sense a real desire among the council and the community that we take action that is really structurally changes this on an ongoing way. I think we need to get back to our analysis and the revenue that was called for. And I would like to at least talk with you about a framework of 5 specific steps that we should consider as a way to move forward with our revenue concerns. The first is the Finance Committee has long considered a 911 fee to help offset our deficits in our 911 service. And I think the committee agrees, and I think a growing number of council members understand that it is time for that. As a first step, that we propose a 911 fee for Georgetown to generate enough revenue to cover all of our shortfall in our 911 service and remove that burden from the general fund. That would eventually free up those dollars to do the other things we want to do. We might even be able to address some of our reasonable expenses in the 911 capital project that we've just completed, but we'll explore those things. I even think that 911 fee can be brought to the council pretty quickly. And after some analysis on what revenue it would generate, that would be step 1. Number 2, I believe that the city must consider creating a stormwater utility. We have decades of problems with flooding in certain parts of Georgetown, and our storm sewer system is old and inadequate. We currently fund it out of the general fund, and it's a drain on our general fund of over $800,000 a year. It's appropriate that a stormwater utility let everyone share in the cost of stormwater management. A stormwater utility is a very complicated undertaking, and it requires a lot of education to understand how it can be structured and the various options that can be considered for how it would be managed. So it's not something we can implement quickly and see the revenue available from our general fund, but I think we can immediately start the education process and have the engineering studies done and the engineering presentations so the council and the public develop an understanding of the concept long before they're asked to act on it. But it is something we're going to have to consider, and I think we should start the discussion and education about it now. The third step, I think the city is going to have to consider, and this is straight from our financial analysis, an increase to the insurance premium tax. Our insurance premium tax right now is tied for the lowest of all of our peer cities at 5%. The average of our peer cities is 8.18%. That's something that we should consider and could be done. That is something that we need to start examining and look at what revenue that would create. Finally, and it's next to last, and it's the big one that we've all talked about before, but some increase to our payroll tax rate. That was being discussed before the pandemic arrived. There was growing consensus around some increase. There was not consensus about what the increase should be, but I even think that could be arrived at. As a part, if we're going to make these changes real and sustainable, we have to look at a payroll tax increase as well. The fifth step that I would suggest is, while it is a future action, I think we should begin educating ourselves on a gross receipts tax that might potentially replace a net profits tax, with the concept that that rate would be significantly less than the net profits rate, and that most businesses would pay less, but every business would pay something, which is, I think, fair to the citizens and fair to the agencies that we have to fund. I give you that 5-item framework, knowing that it would take time to discuss and implement, but I think the discussion of these things needs to begin. And I know from talking with you individually and in other finance committee members' meetings, that the finance committee has done the research and is ready to lead these discussions with the council. And I would like, with your all's consent, to discuss our end of the year situation, the CARES Act, and this kind of framework with the council on Monday night as a way to move forward. And any reactions, or make it better, or is this a reasonable way to carry the conversation forward?
Yes, Mayor. Connie, I'll let you interject as well, but Connie and I have supported the 911 fee for quite some time. We've just been very sensitive to the timing of the issue, and with everything that's gone on, it's obviously that's kind of put it on hold, but we think now is a good time to bring that back. We know that we've got some immediate needs that we need to address with, like we said earlier, with the police department and with all city employees. So from my perspective, I'm definitely ready to discuss it.
I am too, Mayor. Definitely. And I think Monday night discussing our year ends, what we just discussed with Stacy and where we're at, and she may have some more additional numbers for us by Monday, and that, we present these 5 steps of, educating ourselves and putting it out there for it to be well known, the steps that we need to create and take. So yeah, I'm like David, we've discussed the 911. It's just really, like he says, it's been sensitive, but the numbers, maybe Stacy could have those numbers for us on Monday, and Andrew, the $5 versus the $6. And I know we're looking at whether or not we can use all of it. So that would be important and imperative to have that information as well Monday night. But I think this would be the first thing to move on. Don't you, David?
Yes, totally.
And our idea I think our collective idea from the Finance Committee is that these are very large steps and in some cases will be controversial steps to even talk about. But I think it's our job to be very forthcoming with what we think it takes. And I think an outline of these 5 items or others, if we think about them, is what we should present to the council and the public to start thinking about.
I agree. I know we are in some strange times, but we have to look at all of these things that are in front of us, and it has to be sustainable. Whatever decisions we make going forward with our employees, we're going to have to make sure that they're going to be able to. It's going to be sustainable for them, just like what you said, Mayor. So I'm looking forward to it. I feel optimistic, like David does, that things are looking better than we thought. And I think the steps that we've taken from the time this hit to where we're at now were smart steps, waiting and watching and doing what we said we were going to do. So I'm good. What about you, David?
I am. I'm looking forward to Monday night's conversation, and just the fact that we need reoccurring revenue. This would fit the bill for that. So I look forward to it. I also look forward to hearing back from Stacy and Andrew and Devin in regards to the allocation between the $5 or the $6, and what that money can directly be spent on.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
We know what we can spend it on. We have that idea, but there's a question that they're aware of, and they're digging into it, and maybe we can have a little bit better direction Monday night on that issue,
so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
And I think also the numbers, I'm just thinking out loud, because with the police department and those kinds of things, maybe have those numbers brought back to us for salaries on Monday, so that we can consider that and see how that we can move forward on some of those things. Okay.
I think we can update the context that all this conversation is happening.
That'd be good.
And the reason we're having the conversation is so that we can compensate our employees correctly and hire the right number of people to keep our citizens safe.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, and going on the record, that we have an outstanding police department and leadership there, and in our fire department and all of our first responders, and the work that Public Works and all of our city employees have been doing. I'm very grateful for them sticking in there and staying with it. And, we've all had to get through this, and I'm grateful for them. And I want to go on the record saying that I respect each and every one of them, and I'm thankful.
Thanks. Stacy, have we covered everything from a finance director's perspective that we needed to do today?
Yes, I believe so. And we'll work together, Andrew and I, and with Devin's input on the legalities with the 911 fee. And we'll make sure we have some of those other numbers ready for Monday that we had several months ago when we were beginning these conversations. So no, I think that's all I had for an update. And I think we know our direction for Monday.
Okay. Andrew, thank you for listening in for our future conversation and reference. And Karen, thank you for listening in as a council member as well. If there's anything else for us to do, if not, we can sign off and get about our day.